everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today's Sunday, so it's kind of a special day for me because once in a while on Sundays I like to make sauce and meatballs. So today I'm going to show you how I make my meatballs today. So let me show you how I put those together. But first, if you look down here, this is what you're going to need. So basically it all starts off with I'm using 3 different types of meat. I'm using the ground beef, I'm using pork sausage, and I'm also using veal. The veal and the sausage are equal amounts. I'm thinking they're probably about 1/4 pound, maybe even less. This is basically about 1/2 pound, so this is going to be more. So I'm going to use 3 equal parts. You're going to use minced garlic, okay, chop it up really small, and you're going to need Pecorino Romano cheese, and we're also going to need we're going to use breadcrumb for this. So, but I don't use breadcrumb in my meatballs. I never use breadcrumb in my meatballs. What you want to do is you want to take, and it's very easy. This is, everyone has Italian bread. I mean, different types of it, but make sure it's a kind of good Italian bread. So what I do, me and Jimmy, we don't finish the whole loaf of Italian bread. We kind of save them and put them in a Tupperware until they get stale. So these are stale. And these are 2 really nice pieces that I've had for about, probably about 4 or 5 days, so they're nice and hard. This is what's going to go into my meatballs, but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to soak them in a little bit of water. Okay, so you're going to soak them in a little bit of water, and every once in a while you're just going to turn them over. Okay, and until these get soft enough for you to actually break. These will get soft. The longer you have your Italian bread stored away, the more, actually, the staler they're going to be, the harder they're going to get. You can keep Italian bread in a small in a Tupperware and keep it in the closet for probably up to a month to 2 months. These, like I said, were only for about a week, but I've had Italian bread where I actually held on to for about a month and I've used them. I recommend do not use regular breadcrumbs because they're not going to do anything. It doesn't give it any flavor. It's not going to hold the meatball together. This bread with the soak of the water is basically going to make the meatballs nice and juicy and moist, and that's what you're looking for. Already it's starting to soften up. I'm going to add a tiny bit more water. Okay, and we're going to let that sit for a while until we're ready to actually tear this apart and actually add it to the meatballs. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to take our chopped meat. So we're going to put our chopped meat, we're going to break it up. Don't mishandle the meat, like don't over mix it. Hands are the best thing. My hands are clean. It's the best way to mix. Then I'm going to put the pork in. And now I'm going to put the veal. Okay, before I add any ingredients, I'm just going to mix this up a little. Okay, so when I come back, we'll put the rest of the ingredients all together. Okay, so the bread is still soaking, so the next thing I'm going to add in, this is 1 clove of garlic, finely diced. So we're going to add that in. This is parsley. This is about 2 tablespoons of parsley. I would recommend you use fresh parsley, but I didn't have fresh parsley, so I am using the powder of the jar parsley. But if you don't have the fresh, by all means use this one. I don't really recommend it, but I would prefer to use fresh. You're going to add in 2 eggs for the amount of meat that you have here. This is over 1 pound of meat, so you want to put 2 eggs in. Okay, then you want to take your cheese. This is about 1/2 cup. We're going to add the cheese in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of pepper and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Remember, be careful with the salt on the meatballs because remember the cheese has plenty of salt. So now we got that going. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our bread. Okay, it's been soaking. You see it's nice and mushy. So what you're going to do is you're going to squeeze out all the liquid. This is going to make your meatballs stay moist and juicy, not the regular breadcrumb that you buy in stores. This is what you want to do. And it's good. You're not throwing away your old bread. And you're going to break it up. In small pieces. We'll break it up. We'll break it up more as we mix it. Now we're going to take the other half. I'm going to use this portion. Again, soak, get all the liquid out. And break it up. Put it in your meatball mixture. Get rid of this. Best way to mix this is, of course, by hand. You can feel it. You can see if it's actually a little bit too too dense. Then you want to soften it up a little bit more by maybe adding a little bit more egg. Just mix it and incorporate it very well. If there was a little water left in the bread that was soaking, that's a good thing, because normally you want to add a little bit of water to this. Some people add milk. I do sometimes add milk. But on this occasion, since I left some of the water in the bread, I'm not going to. Okay. Keep mixing until this is all incorporated. Okay, that's looking really good. Okay, so I have a little trick that I want to share with you. Let me just wash my hands. I have a little trick that I want to share with you before you make your meatballs. So basically what you want to do is take a paper towel. Okay, take a paper towel, take a little bit of the meatball mixture. Put it on a paper towel. Throw it in the microwave for about a couple of minutes until it's cooked, and that's how you're going to be able to taste to see if there's anything else you need to add to your meatball. So I'll be back in a second and show you this little taste test. Okay, so I took my little sample out of the microwave about, I would say, for about 10 to 15 seconds. And then what you want to do is that is actually very, very good. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more salt. And that's it. So that's a good way to actually taste your chopped meat. Some people don't like eating raw chopped meat, and sometimes, and the pork you can't eat raw anyway. So when you put your mixture together, put a little baby teaspoon on a paper plate or on a paper towel. Throw in the microwave for at least 10 to 15 seconds. It'll be done. Put it in your mouth, taste it, and see if you need to add anything. These are perfect. The only thing I needed to add was just a pinch more salt. Okay. Okay, so that's done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to wash my hands first. Get a plate, and we're going to start forming our meatballs. You can make them almost any size you like. Please don't make these huge meatballs. They're not going to cook. My size that I like to do is basically about okay, that's a perfect size meatball. If you want to, you can actually weigh them out. You can use an ice cream scoop to get them all uniform. But if you're making meatballs as long as I have, you basically can just eyeball it. So when we come back, I should have them all made. So I'll show you what the next step is. Okay, so my meatballs are done, and those are ready to be fried. All right, so we're going to put that aside for a while and let that sit. What we're going to do is we're going to actually get ready to make the sauce to actually put the meatballs in. So what you're going to need to make the sauce is you're going to need 1 clove of garlic, chopped finely. You're going to need a half an onion, and you're going to need sofrito, which happens to be diced up really, I use it in a processor. 1 stalk of lettuce, celery, very small, and a half a carrot, chopped up very small. This with the onion is going to give the sweetness of the sauce without adding sugar. Do not add sugar to your sauce. It takes 2 minutes to make a sofrito. You can actually make a whole bunch of it and put it in a jar and keep it in your refrigerator like I do. Unfortunately, I ran out, so I had to make a quick one today. So I'm only using this one at this amount. Then we're going to need 1 can of whole peeled tomatoes. Now, when I put them in, normally I have an immerser that actually breaks them up inside the pot as it's cooking. Unfortunately, my immerser is not with me at the moment. I lent it to someone, so they still didn't return it. You can actually break them by hand before you put them in the pot. So use whole tomatoes, and you're going to use 1 can of passata. This one actually has basil already in it. So to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to turn our oven on to a medium heat. We're going to drench the bottom, not drench, but we're going to add extra virgin olive oil. And I am using my big spoon today. Okay, so I got that heating up, and while I have that heating up, I'm going to break up the tomatoes. So basically, just be careful because they do have it. So make a little hole in them at first, just to get the liquid out. But once you do that, nope, see, like I said, it just squirted. Okay, but once you do the first squeeze, everything else, it won't pop on you. So now you can get in there with your hands and break up the sauce.
Good working over.
A good working over, right. You can actually put this, if you don't have an immerser and you don't want to use your hands to break this up, you can actually put this in a blender and you can blend it if you want. I just don't want to clean up so many things, so I rather use my hands. My hands are clean, and your hands are the best tools. Okay, so this is actually broken up enough for me. I'm just going to wash my hands. Okay, so the olive oil should be nice and hot. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the garlic in first. I'm going to stir this around. The olive oil is actually starting to infuse with the garlic, so I can smell it. Okay. The next thing you want to add is you want to add your sofrito, which happens to be the carrots and the celery. You're going to let that cook for a little while, maybe about a minute. Let this all infuse together. Okay. Like I said, the carrots and the celery and the onion that I'm going to put in will give a sweetness to this sauce. Do not add sugar to your sauce. Okay, so this has been about a minute. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our onions. Those you can keep whole. These will break up. This is a regular Sunday sauce. I do make another type of sauce, which I'll make a video on, but this one is a very easy sauce. This one does not have to cook for hours. Sometimes I make a sauce that I actually have to cook for 4 or 5 hours. This is going to be ready. This sauce will be ready probably in about 1 to 2 hours. Gravy, yes. Jimmy just reminded me. Italians call it gravy. We don't call it sauce. My mistake. And look at that. He's Irish. Okay. So, add that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our 1 can of passata. Okay, going to add a little bit of water to the passata jar, just a little. Put the cover back on, shake it up, get the rest of the passata out. Stir this around. And now we're going to add our diced peeled tomatoes that we crunched up, that we smashed up. Okay, so we're going to let this cook for a couple of minutes, taste it, and then we'll start adding the herbs. So let that cook for about a minute or so on its own, let it all mix together, and then you're going to taste it, and then we're going to start adding our herbs, the salt, the pepper, the basil. Okay, be back soon. Okay, so this has been cooking together for about 5 minutes. First thing I want to do is I just want to give it a little bit of a taste. I want to give it a little bit of a taste. Yes, camera here. It's absolutely delicious already with no seasoning in it. I went out to my yard and I picked my fresh basil. So what I like to do is I'm just going to take a cut. And since they are small, because remember winter's setting in, so now I have the small leaves. I already used the bigger ones. These are the medium-sized leaves because the big ones are all gone. And I'm just going to break them up. And I'm going to put those in there. But the smaller ones, I'm just going to leave whole.
More aroma.
Okay, to give it more flavor and, like James said, more aroma. So we're going to put that in there. And now, we're going to do the pepper. So we're going to add a ½ tablespoon. Remember, you can always add, you can't take away. I'm going to put a ½ tablespoon of salt. And that's it. Don't add anything else to it. If you want to add anything to this, anything at all, you can add Italian seasoning. That's totally your call. I would prefer not to add that in this particular sauce. That's for another kind of gravy. Gravy sauce. I know I keep saying sauce. That's for another type of gravy. So what we're going to do is we're going to taste again. Absolutely perfect. Perfect. If you feel you need sauce later on as it's cooking, you could always add the sauce. You could always add more pepper. Like I said, if you want to add Italian seasonings, you can. I'm going to make another video on a different type of sauce. That's the one that I use Italian seasoning. This right here, you don't really need to. And remember, use one bottle of passata and 1 can of the whole peeled tomatoes. Use an immerser to actually crush it if it's in the pot, or if you want, use your hands, or if you want, you can actually put it in the blender. And also try to make your own sofrito. It's just celery, carrots, and onions. Chop it up in a mixer, a blender, store it in a jar. The passata jar that I have left over, I'm going to clean that out. I'm going to make my own sofrito. I'm going to put it in that jar. And whenever I need it to cook my sauce, which I cook a lot, I'm going to take a tablespoon of that and I'm going to put it in. It's already made. So when we come back, we're going to start putting together the meatballs. Okay, so we're ready to fry up the meatballs. I have the sauce cooking in the back, and that's going to cook for about an hour. Spoon on the side, add the cover, put it on a simmer and let it cook. So right here I got the meatballs, I got the oil heating in the pan there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one meatball, and we're just going to put them in the frying pan and leave them alone. Don't start moving them around. Trying to crowd them, but I'm pretty sure I can fit all of these in. And I have room for the last one. And that's it. So let them cook. Don't move them around a lot. Just let them cook on one side. You want them to get brown, and then we'll start turning them over. Okay, so the meatballs have been cooking, so we just want to turn them around, turn them over. We just want to brown them. They're going to cook the rest of the way when they're in the sauce. And we got the last one. So we're going to let them cook on this side for a little while, and then we're going to flip them one more time. And then we're going to put them in the sauce. So come back in a couple of minutes, we'll flip them one more time, and then they'll go right into the sauce. Okay, so we're going to flip them over again. Just keep turning them until they get brown on all sides. Okay, so these will cook for another couple of minutes. Then I think we're going to flip it over one more time. So actually I'm going to do it one more time after this. So these are going to cook for a couple more minutes. Again, remember, we don't want to cook them thoroughly. We want to just brown them on all sides. Then we're going to transfer them to a plate, let them sit for about a minute, then we're going to add them to the sauce. Okay, so the meatballs are basically done. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take them out. We're going to transfer them onto a plate. Take this pot, let me get rid of it. Okay, so these are your meatballs. Now we can move the sauce back over to the main burner and shut off the back one. Put this on medium to low. And the sauce is looking really, really nice. So now what you want to do is you want to just take your meatballs, don't worry, they will all fit. And one this one. Oh. Okay. Before I do anything, I just want to just clean the edge. Okay. Again, put this on a low simmer, low, medium to low, mostly on low. And you're gonna put the spoon, put the lid back on. It's gonna cook for about an hour, and this will be done. We're going out to lunch today with my sister-in-law, Kathy. I'm gonna shut this off while I'm out. When I come back, we're gonna turn it on and then let it cook for the amount of time that it has left over. But about an hour is good. So from now until she gets here, I'll shut it off. Remember the time. When I come back, I'll cook it for the additional time. So as long as it comes out to about an hour. And then we'll have some pasta for dinner, me and James. So come back in a little while and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so the meatballs are done. The sauce is finished. This is your sauce. Okay, came out very, very good. All right, so that's ready. You can just put together your favorite pasta, whatever you want, whether it's spaghetti, whether it's rigatoni, whatever you like. Your sauce is all done. And here is the star, which are the meatballs. Okay, so these are done. The batch that I made actually came out to about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, about 18 meatballs. These are delicious. If you follow my recipe on how to make the meatballs, you will make them juicy and not dry. Every single time they will be moist and juicy if you just follow my recipe. Remember, soak your stale bread in water and milk. You can do both. I did mine in water this time, but normally you could do half of water, half of milk, add it together, put your stale Italian bread inside, let it get really, really nice and soft, squeeze out all the liquid, and break it up and add it to your chopped meat recipe. Remember, you can use chopped meat for this, just plain chopped meat, or you can use the 3-in-1, which is the pork, the veal, and the chopped meat. I happen to be doing on this one pork, veal, and chopped meat. But again, I grew up on just the chopped meat recipe of meatballs, so you can do that as well. So follow this recipe, follow my channel on YouTube, subscribe to this channel, ring the notification bell, and like I always say, take care of one another. Peace out, everyone.